Hey guys, what's good? I am coming at y'all with another quick video and finally making a on-wrist review of this watch. I made a video a couple of, I guess it's been months ago now, maybe like 6 months ago, about some watches I traded for this Audemars Piguet. This is the Royal Oak Offshore in 42 millimeters. This is in the navy colorway. Let me take it off wrist and give you all a tour of the watch. First, I guess we can just start with the buckle back here. It's got a really nice Audemars Piguet branded tang buckle, so it doesn't have a deployant clasp, but it has a tang buckle. Really nice, thick, sturdy AP rubber strap. I actually had to get the small strap, and it's really nice that Audemars Piguet gives you the option of having a small strap, and it works really well on my wrist. And we'll get to we'll get to shape and fit in a little bit. But yeah, let me just show you how pretty this watch is and watch how it plays with the light. Look at the dial. It's got that beautiful, they call it a tapisserie dial. And you can just kind of see those little squares cut into the dial. It's offset by these loomed Arabic numerals. And you can see that those counters and the seconds hand are in a kind of a silvery color. And I really like this watch because it has hits of orange. You can see right there at the tachymeter scale, it's orange around the rehat of the dial. And then you can see the hands at 9 and 6, along with the seconds hand, are in orange. So it makes for really easy visibility. Beautiful watch. I really like Audemars Piguet. I really like all their watches, but their sport watches are excellent. And this is the 42 millimeter version of the Royal Oak Offshore. It was a current release. I think it's still a current release right now in this format, but I think there's another 42 millimeter Royal Oak Offshore, and there's a 44 millimeter Royal Oak Offshore. And so they come in different sizes, and so you can really find whatever you want. There's a lot of different fun colors and really different, interesting, variations of this watch. Of course, the Offshore is I guess the younger brother, maybe, ugly cousin of the Royal Oak itself. That's a much more svelte watch. That watch has a lot of history, a lot of class, made in the late 1970s by designed in the 1970s by a legendary watchmaker or watch designer, Gerald Genta. And this watch pays some homage to that watch. It was designed by another designer at Audemars Piguet, but it's become its own thing. And so there are several different Royal Oaks, just as there are several different Royal Oak Offshores. One big change for the newer versions of these watches is how they treated the crown guards right here. Look how angular they are. Really nice. You can see immediately that this watch is definitely a daily driver. It is used but not abused, and I think it's an important thing to buy a watch that is honestly worn. And by that I mean I would much rather buy or trade a watch secondhand, of course, in this condition where you can see the wear, you can see the original chamfers on the lugs. You can see all the case is crisp as opposed to dulled. It may look perfect, but when you look closer, like, man, I mean, the edges are really dulled. And so this watch is a lot of things, but dulled is not one of them. The case is still factory. It just happens to be, scratched a little bit, dinged a little bit. Getting back to what I was saying before, the treatment of the crown guards is different on this newer version, much more angular. You can see it kind of comes. It's kind of like a pyramid right here. And so that's a really nice look. On the 42 millimeter, on the 44 millimeter version, it's even more well-defined. And these circular pushers, or these, these pushers are replaced by more integrated pushers. That's kind of a really cool look too. Of course, it's a bigger watch, so they have more space to play with it. You can see the bolts on the lugs. They're just beautiful overall. And the classic screwed-in attachment of the bracelet, just super secure, super nice, and super easy to change out. Let me show you the back of the watch. And this is another thing that differentiates this version of the Royal Oak Offshore from the previous version, in specifically that it has a display back. And you can see the beautiful gold rotor there and the excellent automatic movement that's working there. It's a modular movement, meaning that the hours and minutes are on one level of the dial, and then the chronograph module is put on top of that. And you can kind of see how that affects the dial, because look at that. You can see inside the dial, there's a second circle there. That's kind of like AP's version of the Cyclops that Rolex uses, but it's within the dial itself, so it doesn't stick up at all. So what that means is that the hours, the minutes, and the date functions sit below the function of the chronograph, and you can see it right here on the side too. Notice how the just fractionally the crown sits just a little bit lower than these pushers. But just a beautiful watch, and one that I held off buying or trading for a long time because I was just really nervous about the way it would wear on my wrist. Let me go ahead and put it on, and we can continue the conversation. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back, and let's try this thing on. You know, it's a chunky watch for sure. You can see that it is, it's thick, it's chunky. And for somebody with a small wrist like mine is, 16 centimeters in circumference. It's something that I always held off buying because I felt like it was going to be too large. But man, wearing it on the wrist, it just feels really good. It's a little bit thick, but I think that's the look and the style that you want with the Royal Oak Offshore. It's not a Royal Oak, so it's an Offshore. And so that thick, chunky sport watch look, is really kind of like what it is. It's kind of like a Panerai. The way a Panerai is supposed to look big, the Offshore is supposed to look big. And there you can see it on my 16 centimeter wrist, and it just works. I really like it. I know it looks to some people like just a chunk of metal. It is a chunk of metal. It does kind of come across like a cuff sometimes because of the way the lugs are integrated, but there's certainly no mistaking what this watch is whenever you see it on somebody. You see it in photos, or you see it, in public. And part of the reason I like this watch is that you really don't see it in public that much. It's a sport watch. It's a steel sport watch that isn't like, one of the usual suspects. Will that be like a Rolex, Submariner, or something from Omega? It's something a little bit different. I mean, it's an Audemars Piguet, and so that in and of itself, I think, puts you in a different neighborhood maybe. Not to say that it's better made than, say, a Rolex Submariner. I own both. I own this and the Sub, and I think they're both really well made. But this watch represents something of a, quote, affordable, AP steel sports watch. Affordability is all relative. Of course, these are also pretty hard to find at retail. The Offshore line used to be something that you could at least get an Offshore, but even that's becoming hard to do. They resell for more than retail now, and I think on the secondary market, I mean, these are approaching. And like I said, this is the 42 millimeter in the navy colorway, which happens to be my favorite colorway of these, but there's lots of different colors to choose from, whatever you're into. But these are approaching like $30,000 now. That's a ton of money. My God, that's a lot of money. But I mean, in the world of AP, when a 15300, that's a Royal Oak, a 14790 even, go for more than $30,000. This being a current generation watch, having the see-through back, some of their new technologies in it. I think it represents a relative bargain. And if you guys watched any of my channel, you know that I'm always going to try to find things for myself that are relative bargains. Keyword being relative. I mean, I know it's a lot of money, but man, I mean, it's hard to get into Audemars Piguet. Forget about getting it at retail. I mean, especially if you want like one of the Royal Oaks, even a 15450, which is the mid-sized Royal Oak. I mean, that watch goes for more than 30,000 now. So an offshore, on the secondary market, in used, admittedly used condition, but honest condition with an unpolished case. For me, I felt like it was just kind of like my kind of watch, like a watch that I could enjoy, that was honestly worn. I never had to second guess, man, was that polished, was it not? Because some watches, I mean, that really kills it. It really does. AP, for example, I mean, the casework is so perfect, polishing it really ruins that. Certainly, the Patek Philippe Nautilus or the Aquanaut, the polishing can just really ruin that. And you really want those watches to be unpolished, even if they're nicked, even if they're scratched, to have them unpolished. Certainly discerning collectors are looking for those watches. And it's bizarre, but discerning collectors will almost pay a premium for watches that are obviously unpolished versus watches that are perfect looking, but man, they may have been polished in the past. So anyway, that's a kind of like a random tangent there, but just some insight into maybe what to look for in a watch, what to what to avoid in a watch, and to give you some help on maybe don't discount a watch just because it looks used. In many cases, that's a good thing. You don't want to be buying watches that are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years old. Oh, hey, they don't have box and papers, but hey, they still look pristine. Come on. I mean, that doesn't jive. But anyway, sorry, I'm rambling as always. I hope you like this quick look at a watch that I really like, a watch that I wear a lot. This is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore. This is the 42 millimeter version. This is the navy version of the watch. And I think it's just something that is fun to wear. It's got great water resistance, especially when you consider it compared to the Royal Oak. It's got great style. It's definitely an Audemars Piguet. When you look at it, it's definitely a Royal Oak. It's a lot of watch, but if you wear it with style, if you wear it with positivity, if you wear it with some confidence, I think anybody could pull off this watch. If you're avoiding this watch, or you're like, man, those look really cool, I'd really love to get one, but you're nervous because of a small wrist, I'll tell you, like I tell you all the time, if I can wear this watch, anybody watching this video could wear this watch. It's something that they have different size straps. You can make it work. If you like it enough, if you have the confidence, if you have the style to pull it off, it would work fine. And it's something that's different. It's something that's not a Submariner, not like an Omega or a Breitling. Y'all know I love Breitling. I love my Rolex Sub, but it's something a little bit different. It's got a little bit more energy. It's got a little bit more style, a little bit more hype, a little bit more under the radar than maybe some of those watches are. Anyway, like I said, I'm rambling as always. Guys, I really appreciate y'all logging in. I really appreciate y'all watching these videos. And I really appreciate all the comments, positive and negative. Hope everybody is doing well. Thoughts and prayers out there to any of y'all that are not. And I look forward to making some more content for y'all soon. All right, guys. God bless. Thank you. And I'll come back at y'all soon with some new content. Take care. Bye.